when I was in the States, I was at Camp Devens, and this big sergeant was giving us close order drill. And he said, well, can any of you guys drill this outfit? And nobody spoke up, and I said, well, I can. So I drilled them. To me, it was very, very simple. So I became a corporal. Now, all the non-coms in the outfit went to a prep school for officer candidate school, and they all failed. So my buddy Kenny Thompson, I was talking to him, and he said, well, why don't we go to the office and see if we could go to OCS? So we went to the office, and they looked up our records, and if you had a certain IQ, you could go. And they said, yeah, you're both eligible to go. So we went to this prep officer candidate school. And of course, the idea of the school was to harass you. And there were members of the regular Army at the school, and they all flunked out. I mean, they just couldn't stand the harassment. And Kenny Thompson, he was in a bunk at one end of the barracks, and I was on the other side of the barracks in the middle. And the lights went on at 7 o'clock in the morning, so you had to mop under your bed and make your bed and get your foot locker all straightened out. Well, you wake up and you could hear the mops and pails moving around on the floor. And the lights went on, and some of these guys are already all dressed and had mopped under their bed. They had taken their clothes and gone to the big bathroom and got dressed, and then they come back and mopped under their bed. And so the guy next to me was a sergeant in the regular Army, and he said to me, well, you've got to mop under my bed. And I said, who told you so? Well, he said, I'm a sergeant in the Army. And I said, I really don't care who you are. You're going to have to mop under your own bed. So one of the exercises we had at OCS, we had a big auditorium, and there'd be like, 200 people in there. And this colonel is up on the stage, and he's talking about how many vehicles you'd need to move a certain number of troops. And he had a pointer, and he's pointing to the trucks, the different types of trucks that were available. And he said, now we want to move 45 men. What kind of vehicles do we need? Well, he called on the guy sitting in front of me with his number, and I said to him, 2 ambulances. And he said to the instructor, 2 ambulances, and he broke his pointer across his knee. And then this guy turned around and he tried to jump over his chair to get after me. Oh dear. So now we're going to OCS in Carlisle Barracks, and we're on the train, and we stop in Washington, and we come out of the railroad station, and here's this big bar and grill right across the street. So we walk over there, and we sit at the bar, and there are 2 guys just down a couple of stools, and the guy said to me, where are you from? And I said, I'm from Connecticut. Well, he said, I'm from Connecticut. Bartender, set him up. So he said the bartender came with shots of whiskey. Well, I had never drank very much in my life. So anyway, I don't know how many shots of whiskey we had, 2 or 3. So then we go and we get back on the train, and Kenny Thompson is sitting there and he has his cap in his lap. And the next thing you know, whoops, he threw up on his cap. So now we have to take him to the bathroom and clean up his uniform and get him straightened out. So we get to Carlisle Barracks, and I said to one of the other guys, he was drunk as a skunk. I said to one of the other guys, would you help me hold him up if we get in the back row? And the guy said, yeah, I'll help you. So we walked him into the back row, and when they took the attendance, you know, they said, present, here, 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 here. So now, your mother's coming down. So he said, well, my wife is coming down. So I said, well, let's go over to the train station. And we go over to the train station, and lo and behold, your mother gets off the train, and his wife gets off the train. They were both on the same train. But his wife had 2 suitcases. So I thought I'd be a nice guy and pick up one of the suitcases. So I go to pick it up, and Jesus, I could hardly pick it up. Anyway, I managed to carry it, and I'm wondering to myself, what the hell does she have in here? Well, we went to the USO, and the lady said, oh, we've got 2 rooms. A woman, her husband was a doctor. He died a few months ago, so she's decided to rent a few rooms. So we went to her house, and it was very nice. But during the week, the girls went out and bought some bacon and eggs and some bread. And what Kenny's wife had in her suitcase was a burner, an electric burner that you plugged in. So they raised the window, and of course this is in February. They raised the window, and they're cooking the eggs and the bacon, and of course the fumes went right downstairs. So we got kicked out of there. So now we go back to the USO, and they said, well, we've got another place for you. So we got over to this place, and this was a man and his wife who were paper hangers. That's what they did for a living. So they had 2 rooms. So we moved in there. And, I mean, the girls, they had a great time. While we were at camp, I mean, every night they played cards. And, I mean, they just had a great time. And then on the weekends, we'd come back and stay with them. And one day, a colonel came over, and he knocked on the door, and the guy answered the door, and he said, I understand you have 2 rooms to rent. Well, he said, they're rented now. Well, he said, I'm a full colonel. He said, I think I'm entitled to the rooms. And he said, I wouldn't care if you were Eisenhower. You're not getting these rooms. So he left. So then we had an exercise at Officer Candidate School where with a compass, and you were given directions that you were supposed to go so many degrees, so many 100 feet, and then you were supposed to go so many degrees, another 100 feet. Well, they had these little shacks that were all dark, and you were supposed to find them. Well, We didn't find a damn one of them. But we heard all this noise up on the hill. So we climbed the hill, and there they had a great big bonfire, and they were all singing. So we joined in the singing and the bonfire, and nothing ever happened. You know, the fact that we never found any of the points we were supposed to find, nothing ever happened. And so we graduated, and I was assigned to Camp Robinson in Arkansas. So I went to the rationing board to get some gas tickets because I wanted to, we were going to drive out there. And the rationing board guy said, "Oh, we can't give you any tickets just to drive out there." So then I went over to the State Armory, and I saw a guy over there. And I told him that my wife and I wanted to drive out to Arkansas. Well, he said, "How many tickets do you think you'll need?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. It's about 1,200 miles. So he gave us sheets and sheets and sheets and sheets. And each little stamp was good for 4 gallons. Yeah. Well, I had so many sheets. When I was ready to go overseas, I had 3 or 4 sheets left that I could give to Grandpa Neil. Yeah. Then Howard was born in Little Rock, and the food staff were on strike. Well, of course, Grammy Neal came out to see the baby, and in the meantime, we had rented a little house with 2 bedrooms, and the woman had gone off to be with her husband wherever he was stationed, and her name was Et. And we could rent that house as long as nobody slept in Et's bedroom. And we said, "Oh, that's fine." So Grammy Neal came out. She slept in Et's bedroom. My mother came out. She slept in Et's bedroom. But the food workers were on strike at the hospital when your mother was in the hospital. So Grammy Neal used to stop at the bakery down at the foot of the hill and buy a nice pastry to take her in. So she went down there one morning, and all the raisins were moving. Oh my God! So there was no more Danish. So now I get orders that I'm going to be shipped to Texas. And the captain said, "Well, I'll hold you here until your wife gets out of the hospital." So your mother got out of the hospital, and she got a ticket on a plane to fly back to Hartford. And the day before she was due to fly back, she got a call the Army had taken that seat. So she had to go home by train. Well, in those days, there was no air conditioning on the trains. So the people had the windows up, and the soot. She got to Grand Central Station, and she had baby oil that she kept putting on the Howard to keep wash the soot off. And so she got to Grand Central Station, and she's sitting there, and she said to the woman, "Would you watch my suitcases while I go to the bathroom?" And the woman said, oh, she said, "You can leave the baby with me." She said, "Oh no, I'll take the baby with me."